Shalom, and welcome to What the Watchman Sees, a ministry that will sift through all of the social media noise to show you news of importance from the Most High's perspective. As watchmen, we are here both to warn of dangers and give biblical answers for dwelling in the secret place of the Most High during these times of confusion. Tell your family and friends to like, share, and subscribe as we delve into what Yahweh has for us, the apple of His eye. Let's get to work. Shabbat Shalom. Today's Shabbat meditation is going to be about the visions of Yah as given to or interpreted by the prophet Daniel. I know that this is the season of Passover for the bloodline children of Yasharel and Holy Week for those who are Christians. In the past, we've tried to have lessons and meditations that follow the pattern of examining the word of the Most High based on whatever season we find ourselves in. However, we find ourselves in an additional season at this present time, and that is the season of war. Just as Ecclesiastes states, for everything under the heavens, there is a time and a season. We are currently in a season of war. We cannot ignore this fact. It is appropriate that this meditation directly deal with that reality. So on this Shabbat, our meditation will be on the initial vision of nations and conquest and war found in the book of Daniel. It is the vision of King Nebuchadnezzar found in Daniel chapter 2. So I'm going to pull up Daniel chapter 2. I think most of you know the story that King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He couldn't figure out what the dream meant. And not only that, after he woke up, he couldn't even remember what it was. But it was such a troubling dream that he asked, or he commanded that his Chaldeans and magicians and soothsayers come and tell him what the dream was and what the interpretation of it was. And if they couldn't do that, he was going to kill all of them. Well, Daniel and his compatriots were a part of the group designed to give advice to King Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel being one of the captives. He was from the tribe of Judah. Daniel, when he heard that the king was going to kill all of them, he made a request that the king give him a little bit of time to ask the Father in heaven what is the dream and what is the interpretation of it. And to make a long story short, the Father gave him that. Okay. So Daniel is brought before the king, and this is where we're picking up the story. Daniel chapter 2, verse 27. Daniel answered the king, "No wise man, enchanter, medium, or magician can explain to the king the mysteries of which he inquires, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the latter days. Your dreams and the visions that came into your mind as you lay on your bed are these. As you lay on your bed, O king, your thoughts turn to the future, and the revealer of mysteries made known to you what will happen. And to me, this mystery has been revealed not because I have more wisdom than any man alive, but in order that the interpretation might be made known to the king, and that you may understand the thoughts of your mind. As you, O king, were watching, a great statue appeared. A great and dazzling statue stood before you, and its form was awesome. The head of the statue was pure gold, its chest and arms were silver, its belly and thighs were bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were part iron and part clay. As you watched, a stone was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. Then the iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold were shattered and became like chaff on the threshing floor in summer. The wind carried them away, and not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that had struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, are the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given sovereignty, power, strength, and glory. Wherever the sons of men or beasts or field or birds of the air dwell, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold, but after you there shall arise another kingdom, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom of bronze will rule the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, as strong as iron, for iron shatters and crushes all things, and like iron that crushes all things, it will shatter and crush all the others. And just as you saw that the feet and toes were made partly of fired clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom, yet some of the strength of iron will be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. As you saw the iron mixed with clay, so they will mix with others, but will not hold together any more than iron mixes with clay. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to other people. It will shatter all the kingdoms and bring them to an end, but will itself stand forever. And just as you saw a stone being cut out of the mountain without hands, and it shattered the iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold, so the great Elohim has told the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true and its interpretation is trustworthy. And I wanted to show you one other thing. I'm just going to show you verse 43 in the King James Version, because this is what I'm going to be speaking about. It says, "And whereas you saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay." So I'm going to leave that up while we talk a little bit about that. The image in the vision describes the world's great kingdoms, beginning with Nebuchadnezzar and ending with the rulership of the true King of Kings, although that's what Nebuchadnezzar was called, because we just read that. Many have given their interpretations of the visions of Daniel as well as other prophets. However, the best interpretations, as we continually encourage you to consider, is to let the scriptures interpret themselves. In these passages, I have Bibles that have listed the various nations and people groups that the people who wrote the commentary think that this is talking about. And that's okay, because we do want to be able to relate through our own experiences to what the scriptures say. But the scriptures, if the scriptures are not giving names of individuals or nations, I would suggest to you that let's just see what the scriptures say. So that, because the best interpretations come from the word itself. So here's what the king saw. He saw a great image of a human body, the head of gold, breast and arms of silver, torso and thighs of brass, legs of iron, feet and toes, part iron and part clay. And then the stone, it says, it was cut out without hands, struck that image on the feet and broke them into pieces. And that brought down the whole image, which means that before that stone strikes the feet, the entire image is still intact. It's not until the stone comes and strikes the feet that the entire thing collapses. So after that happens, when the stone strikes the feet, then the wind carries the chaff of that fall completely away. And then the stone becomes a great mountain and fills the entire earth. There are other visions in the book of Daniel. Basically, the book of Daniel is a book of the visions that the Father has either given him to interpret, as in this case, or the other visions that Daniel received were for him so that he could understand, but they're all basically still talking about the same things, just more elaboration on this same idea. So for the most part, they're giving more details on the overall narrative of the kingdoms of man being replaced by the kingdom of the Most High. So since we at least we appear to be at the end of times spoken of by Daniel, the rest of this meditation is on a small but hugely important detail, and that's found in verse 43, which is why I have it on the screen. And it's talking about, again, concerning the feet of iron mixed with clay, feet and toes of iron mixed with clay. We know that human beings have 10 toes. And he says, but they shall not cleave to one another, or they don't mix right, even as iron does not mix with clay. So I believe that this is a part, as the scriptures are describing, of the meta narrative of the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman, and how the seed of the serpent strikes the heel of the seed of the woman. The seed of the woman crushes or bruises the head of the seed of the serpent. The whole statue, from top to bottom, from head to foot, is a figure or a representation of the seed of the serpent. In this age, the iron mixed with clay, if we are letting the scriptures talk to us, and we are allowing our current situations to be explained by scriptures, the operative word in Daniel chapter 2, verse 43 is they, because the they is what we're looking at. Why does it say they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men? If this was all men, that wouldn't need to be stated like that. So the question is, who is this they? I would submit, based on other scriptures going all the way back to Genesis, that the they has to do with the fallen ones, or the seed of the serpent plays itself out on the earth, but the serpent is a spiritual being. I believe that the they is talking about the unclean spirits. They've been called that. They've been called the fallen ones, the Nephilim. In other words, this that we're looking at in verse 43 is the dark spirits mingling with human beings. Okay. Now, some people believe that that was a physical mingling, and that's where the giants came from. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really the influence. Okay. So they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That is the seed of the serpent mingling with the seed of men. They're not able to cleave to one another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Okay. So, but again, the feet have 10 toes. And I believe that those 10 toes are, as the scriptures again in Genesis talk about, the seed of Japheth, who are the Gentiles, which is what the scriptures actually say. The Gentiles are the seed of Japheth. That's who the Bible is declaring are those 10 toes. Okay, so basically in today's world, that would be those nations in Europe, which have been ruling the entire planet with the help of these angels for almost the past millennium. All right, so most of the leaders of those nations are from a single bloodline that will be ruling the entire world. Because when you think about it, the Babylonian, when it says you'll rule the entire world for the Babylonians was in the Middle East, and it remained that way pretty much up until the time of the Romans, and theirs expanded into Europe, of course. But it was only when the 10 nations become a reality that literally the entire planet is now being ruled from Europe. Nobody wants to admit that, but that is in fact the case. All right. And I said the entire world, the entire world. So, in any case, when Yeshua returns, he's the one that's going to destroy those kingdoms, which began with the head of gold and continued through the feet of iron and clay. All of those kingdoms will be considered as chaff. So the final kingdom will destroy all the others. That kingdom is the rock that was cut out, not made by man, and the rock strikes the feet. The image is still intact until that point. The world is still being run by the seed of the serpent until Yeshua puts an end to it. And the way he does it is he strikes the feet. Once you strike a human being's feet, the body is going to fall. And so that's what this is a description of. So when the entire body falls, what is that representing? It represents the seed of the serpent. So now, yes, human beings are intimately involved with this whole process, and it's being carried out through human beings. But that's why it's important for us to see the larger narrative. So the point of all of this is to say we have been living, especially now, in a time when human beings are trying to usher in the kingdom of heaven. That is not going to happen. The king ushers in his own kingdom. He doesn't need us. Our job is to make known to people to get ready for the king because he's coming. Okay. But it is the king that establishes the kingdom. He's the one that strikes the feet of iron mixed with clay. So let me be more specific. In this war, you are going to see, and you're starting to see it already. They put out a little bit at a time. When it comes to making war, nobody does it better than the people who are currently waging these wars. They cannot be defeated that way. They spend all of their waking hours thinking about ways to wage war. Part of the warfare is psychological, part of it is physical, but its root is spiritual. And the seed of the serpent is much wiser than the seed of men. When it comes to making war, the serpent is the one giving instructions to the seed of men. So when we try to come against other men, see, that's why the Apostle Paul, but actually he was repeating what Yeshua said. We're not fighting against flesh and blood, because if we choose to fight against flesh and blood that is in charge of the world right now will crush us. That's what they do. That's why they're here. That kingdom has to be destroyed by the king himself. Okay, so the final kingdom, which will destroy all the others, will not be made by man. It's not going to be ushered in by man. It's going to be established and ushered in by the king himself. So during this season of Passover and during this season of the resurrection, we are encouraged to reflect on what it costs the king to do that which he has now been given authority to do. The work of destroying the image. He had to become like us. He had to go through the same things that we went through. And then he had to die just like us. The difference is he didn't stay down. By the Most High and the Spirit of the Most High, he was resurrected. And that's what gives him the authority to speak and to act as the king that will be ruling and in a position of rulership from the point that he comes to throughout eternity. So the blessing is the king is coming. And just like Ecclesiastes said, there's a time of war and there's a time of peace. And as I forget the name of the rock group from my generation that made, I think it was the Turtles, that made that song, To Everything There Is a Season, Turn, Turn. For those of you who are my age, you remember that song. And it says a time of war and a time of peace. And then they say, I swear it's not too late. And I say the same thing to you. It's not too late. Peace is coming, y'all. But right now, don't fool yourselves. This is war. You got to act like you're at war, or that war is being waged against you. It's much larger than the human beings, the flesh and blood folk, going back and forth at each other. This is a spiritual thing that we are in the midst of. So that's what the Most High has for us today on this Shabbat. Father, bless you and keep you. Father, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Father, lift up his countenance